Imagine a ruler whose wealth was so vast, it's said to have disrupted entire economies during his travels. A king whose golden entourage stretched beyond the horizon. This isn't a myth or a fable, but the real-life tale of Mansa Musa, the medieval African emperor. The 1280s, not just a time of medieval knights and castles, but also the birth of a legend, Mansa Musa. Born into a lineage of rulers, he wasn't just another royal baby. No, he was destined for greatness, even if the world didn't know it yet. Ever heard of Mansa Abu-Bakr, Musa's predecessor and brother? This is where things get juicy. Abu-Bakr, in a move that would make modern-day explorers green with envy, embarked on a mysterious expedition. The goal? To cross the Atlantic Ocean. And this was centuries before Columbus even got the idea. But as with many tales of daring and ambition, it came with a twist. Abu-Bakr, along with his vast fleet, vanished without a trace. Lost to the walls of history, a disappearance that's baffled historians for ages. Was it ambition or folly? We may never know. Now, back to our main man, Musa. With his brother's puzzling exit, the throne of the Mali Empire beckoned, and Musa, it was all his. From the get-go, it was evident that he wasn't just another ruler. He had a vision, an ambition that dwarfed even the vast Saharan sands. Put yourself in the shoes of a young Musa, perhaps gazing at the stars, pondering the weight of the crown he was about to inherit, and knowing that he would need to expand his influence and geopolitical stature in the coming years. How? A Hajj, a pilgrimage to Mecca, of course. The Mali Empire, a jewel of West Africa, with its gold, culture, and sprawling territories, a realm of possibilities and challenges, and Musa, ready to steer its destiny, destroy the Egyptian economy in the process. But how? Well, a little bit about the Mali Empire. The 13th century, a time when empires rose and fell, each leaving a unique mark on history. But amidst this chaotic dance of power, one empire stood out, not just for its size, but for its sheer opulence and influence in Africa, the Mali Empire. Imagine an empire that encompassed the modern nation of Mali and more, its borders encompassing a myriad of cultures, languages, and terrains. At its zenith, the Mali Empire was a force to be reckoned with. Its dominion extended over a staggering expanse, including what we now know as Mali, Senegal, Gambia, Guinea, Niger, Nigeria, Chad, and even up to the fringes of the Sahara Desert. Now, every empire has its golden age, and for Mali, this era was undeniably under the rule of Mansa Musa. A king so wealthy that his mere presence in a city could devalue gold? That was Mansa Musa, his defining characteristic: immense, and we mean truly immense wealth. Under his astute leadership, the empire annexed a whopping 24 cities, with Timbuktu being the crown jewel. Ah, Timbuktu, a name that even today evokes images of a distant, almost mythical place of wealth and learning. But what made the Mali Empire truly remarkable wasn't just its territorial conquests, it was its strategic control over major trading centers. Think of it as the medieval version of controlling global trade routes. From gold to salt, the empire's trading networks were the lifeblood of its economy, making it one of the wealthiest empires of its time. But where did the bling in the Mali Empire come from? No, it wasn't from raiding pirate ships or discovering Aladdin's cave. It was all about gold, salt, and, unfortunately, slaves. Let's break it down, shall we? Gold. Mali was practically swimming in it. In fact, nearly half of the old world's gold came from Mali. That's right, half. While the rest of the world was playing catch-up, Mali was the OG gold digger. And no, they didn't need to search far. They had vast gold mines operating for centuries. Mansa Musa, Mali's emperor, once went on a pilgrimage and gave away so much gold that he caused inflation in regions he visited. The most famous example is his visit to Cairo, in which he gave gifts so generously that the price of gold plummeted. As a result, economic crisis and starvation soon followed in Egypt. Next is salt. Now, you might be thinking, salt? Really? But back in the day, salt was the real MVP. It wasn't just for seasoning your steak, it was a precious commodity, essential for preserving food and, by extension, keeping people alive. Mali had the good stuff, and they knew it. Those trade routes, effectively salt highways. And while gold might have been the showstopper, salt was the silent powerhouse, keeping the empire's coffers full. Slaves. Here's where things get a tad uncomfortable. Slavery played a significant role in Mali's economy. It wasn't just about manual labor. Slaves were involved in various sectors, from agriculture to administration. The empire's expansion? Fueled in part by the acquisition of slaves. It's a dark chapter in an otherwise glittering history, reminding us that wealth often comes at a cost. So there you have it, Mali's recipe for success: a generous helping of gold, a pinch of salt, and a side of forced labor, a mix of brilliance, resourcefulness, and moral ambiguity. Now, you might be tempted to dismiss Mali as just another ancient empire with a penchant for shiny things. But here's the kicker: their business acumen, their trade networks, and their ability to capitalize on natural resources? It's a masterclass in economics and strategy. A lesson in making the most of what you've got. Now, for something a little different, when most of us think of a pilgrimage, we picture a humble journey, a spiritual quest, maybe a backpack and some worn-out shoes. But Mansa Musa, absolutely not. In fact, there was nothing further from his character. Why go small when you can go grand? The grand pilgrimage to Mecca, a caravan stretching as far as the eye can see, not just a few folks and their camels, but a whopping 60,000 men. And if that wasn't enough to make a statement, add 12,000 slaves to the mix, each carrying gold bars, because traveling light was apparently overrated. And let's not forget the trail of animals, from horses to camels, each also laden with bags of gold dust. It was less of a pilgrimage and more of a mobile gold mine. This caravan would snake its way through the vast Sahara, shimmering under the relentless sun. Every stop they made was like a mini economic boom for the locals. But it wasn't just about the Sahara. When they reached Egypt, Mansa Musa decided to play Santa. And by that, we mean to say that he gave away so much gold, crashed Cairo's gold market. Talk about an economic faux pas. Was it the ultimate flex of wealth? Maybe? Was it an unintentional masterclass on inflation? Absolutely. But here's the kicker. While Mansa Musa's generosity was legendary, it wasn't just about flaunting wealth. It was a strategic move, a way to boost Mali's reputation across North Africa and the Middle East, and it worked wonders. For years after, scholars, traders, and explorers were drawn to Mali, curious about the land of gold and its generous king. So, what can we learn from this epic road trip? Well, for starters, always travel with some spare change. You never know when you might need to crash a market or two. And more importantly, behind every grand gesture, there's a strategy, a vision, the showmanship and the resources to back it all up. Mansa Musa wasn't just a king, he was a brand ambassador for Mali, putting his empire on the global map in the most flamboyant way possible. But how does this relate to the modern context? How about Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk? As of 2023, estimates place Bezos' net worth at around $250 billion, and Musk's hovering close to $280 billion. Impressive, right? Only compared to modern billionaires. Compared to our main man, Mansa Musa, they're just playing in the kiddie pool. When we adjust for inflation and consider the vast resources at Mansa Musa's disposal, some historians estimate his wealth to be over a staggering 400 billion. That's right, he's in a league of his own, making today's billionaires look like they're just getting started. Now, imagine being so wealthy that every Friday, on a whim, you decide to build a mosque. Not because there's a shortage, but simply because it's Friday. That's right, during his pilgrimage, Mansa Musa built mosques like we'd buy coffee. A daily dose of devotion, if you will. And speaking of his pilgrimage, let's not forget the tales of cities having their economies crash just because he was in the vicinity. In fact, legend has it that his reserves were so enormous that entire cities couldn't muster enough gold or physical goods to trade with him. Imagine walking into a store today and being told, Sorry, we just don't have enough stuff for you to buy. Mind-boggling. But it wasn't just about hoarding wealth. Mansa Musa's generosity was the stuff of legends. While Bezos might buy a new space company, or Musk might launch another rocket, our Malian monarch was out there ensuring that his legacy was etched in stone, quite literally, with grand architectural marvels. To this day, Mansa Musa's wealth remains unparalleled, a saga of opulence and ambition reminding us of the staggering riches once held by a single man.